and welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we are so glad to have you here. Coming up on the show, the federal bribery trial of Senator Bob Menendez is scheduled to start on May 13th. According to recently unsealed court papers, Senator Menendez's defense could be taking an approach that would shift the blame to his wife, claiming she kept him in the dark about the alleged illegal dealings. First, though, we're going to be discussing the recent Democratic debate for New Jersey's 8th Congressional District between incumbent Rob Menendez, son of Senator Bob Menendez, and Ravi Bala, the mayor of Hoboken. Here are some of the highlights.
Good evening. My name is Rob Menendez, and I have the distinct honor of representing New Jersey's 8th Congressional District. 2 years ago, I raised my hand to represent this incredible place and to go down to Washington, fight for you and your family every single day, and that's exactly what I've done. In Washington, I'm standing up to MAGA extremists. I'm fighting for a woman's right to choose. I'm fighting for access to contraception no matter where in this country you live. I'm fighting to end the scourge of gun violence that has existed in our communities and our schools for far too long. I'm standing up for our immigrant community. Over 40% of the people that live here were born outside this country, and I stand tall for them every single day.
My name is Ravi Bala. I am the mayor of the city of Hoboken, and it is my honor to join you here tonight as a candidate for U.S. Congress for the 8th Congressional District of New Jersey. I have worked hard as a civil rights attorney, fighting against discrimination and giving a voice to people who have often been left voiceless. As a city council member, then a two-term mayor of Hoboken, I know what it takes to get things done, to make working lives people better. From investing in public safety to making sure kids have a safe environment, to innovating to tackle flooding and climate change, I am proud of what we've accomplished together. As a member of the United States Congress, I will continue my lifelong work to fight against hate and discrimination while delivering results for New Jersey working families.
Joining me now is part of our debate panel, David Wildstein, editor of the New Jersey Globe, and Joey Fox, reporter for the New Jersey Globe. Gentlemen, it's good to see you both.
Good to be here.
Thanks for having us on, Laura.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the debate. We started it out with questions about Congressman Menendez's father, Senator Bob Menendez. So let's just talk a little bit about, the cloud that has been hanging over Bob Menendez and his son's campaign, as well as the entire, really, the political landscape. So, David, I'll go to you first. How do you think Congressman Rob Menendez handled those questions?
Yeah, I think he handled it as well as he can. And it's no secret that the only reason he's in a tough primary for re-election is because of his father's indictment and the trial and the publicity that's come up and the story that's being told against him. I think had it been a normal cycle and that if his father was running for re-election without this host of legal problems, I think Congressman Menendez would be coasting to victory, but he's not. That's the reality. That's what we got here.
Yeah. Let me go over to you, Joey. You cover the congressman in Washington, D.C. Going into this debate, we weren't really sure, what to expect coming out of the debate. Not as many sparks flew as we thought. What were your impressions of how Rob Menendez handled himself?
Well, quickly what I'll say in response to your first question, yes, it's true. And what David said, yes, it's true that Rob Menendez would not be locked in a competitive race were it not for his father's legal troubles. He also probably would not be in Congress at all were it not for his father's political power back in 2022 when he was a relatively unknown Port Authority commissioner who was given heavy party support for an open congressional seat. So, the story begins a little while ago with that race that wasn't contested at all. The only two Democratic primary opponents were both pretty much unknowns. So this is the younger Menendez's first real test, and it's a test that is coming in really unfortunate circumstances for him, where not only is his family name, getting dragged through these legal proceedings, but his literal name. His name is Robert Menendez, same as his father. So I think given that setup, I felt like he comported himself well at this debate. You saw in his opening statement that he came right out of the gate and said, I know that this debate is going to in part focus on my father, but what I intend to do is prove to the voters that, I'm in tune with them. I've been fighting for them. I am my own man. Yeah. And I think in a race where there's going to be millions of dollars spent, where there's going to be a lot of canvassing, where most voters are going to be voters who turn out to the Democratic primary polls will be pretty clued into what's going on. It's going to be up to them whether to look at the name Robert Menendez on the ballot, or I should say the name on the ballot will be Rob Menendez. So there's a little bit of a distinction there. To look at that name and say, do I vote for this guy because I think he's been a good representative for the community, because he's gotten money for the district, whatever? Or do I vote against him because at the end of the day, whatever his accomplishments may be, I don't want more Menendezes in Congress. And I think that is the critical question that the debate turned on, and that is going to be the critical question that the ultimate results hinge on.
Yeah, and Joey, I want to follow up because these candidates, they're fairly even as far as when it comes to their finances and as far as their support is going right now. Can you talk a little bit about, and this is something you've covered so much, about the decision about to abolish the county lines, those party lines, the impact that it had even further on this campaign, making it more and even more of a fight for the congressman's political life?
Yeah, so the county line decision is something that has had reverberations all across New Jersey. For those who aren't aware of what this is, for many decades, New Jersey primary ballots have been designed where parties can endorse slates of candidates, and those candidates will appear on the ballot as a unified slate. And other candidates can also form slates, but oftentimes they don't. Oftentimes, potentially formidable challengers just won't even bother to go up against the line because it's seen as so formidable. This year, a federal judge in the Democratic primary, not the Republican primary, but in Democrats, struck that down. And so that means that when voters in the 8th district go to look at their primary ballots, you'll see the three candidates, Kyle J.C., Ravi Bala, Rob Menendez, listed just as equals in the 8th district with no other, real frills around it. So I think that is obviously a benefit to Mayor Bala's campaign, just in the sense that, he did not have the line in any of the counties in the 8th district. And studies have shown that the visual power of the line is definitely important in terms of how voters make their decisions. At the same time, this was going to be an expensive and intense campaign regardless. The mayor got into the race long before this court decision came out. And so I think that we'd be having a relatively similar discussion right now about how this race is really tight, even if the line was still in place. It's sort of one more layer of uncertainty that it isn't in place, because it means that voters won't have any indication on the ballot other than little ballot slogans about who has all the endorsements in the race, who has the party support.
Yeah, definitely could be a very late night on election night. David, let me get your impressions just of Mayor Bala. A lot of people, unless you're in the district, you may not be as familiar with the mayor of Hoboken, but how did you think he did? How do you think he presented himself? Because you're going up against an incumbent who's got the experience. Not only does he have experience, he has years and years of watching his father in Congress and in the Senate. So how did you think he did overall?
Mayor Bala is still polished. He has gone. He ran a couple times for city council in Hoboken, and then won a very tough race for mayor, and won a competitive race for re-election. Hoboken is a town where it just for New Jerseyans seems bigger than the actual number of people. A lot more attention on it. Ravi Bala is not a neophyte. He's not a newcomer. He knows how to go get votes. And I think the important thing here when you're running against an incumbent is he's outraising the incumbent, at least so far. He's going to have a lot more money to put up on TV ads, to go into mail. And there are some super PACs that are up with some fiercely negative ads tying Congressman Menendez to his father, Senator Menendez. But then you've got Rob Menendez has an advantage on the ground. He's got he's got Brian P. Stack, who is the GOTV king of New Jersey. He's got a lot of people in that old Hudson organization that still know how to actually bring people to polls on election day.
Let me ask, Joey, when it comes to the issues when you're in whether Republican and Democratic primary, a lot of times the candidates are fairly similar on a lot of the issues. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes the candidates not just similar, but are there areas where they really stand out, where they really do differ on the issues?
Yeah, I think that this debate showed that there were. I mean, people who watched the whole debate through will know that we didn't ask some of the questions about issues that a lot of Democrats care a lot about. So, abortion did not really come up other than when the candidates mentioned it themselves. LGBT rights did not really come up. Gun control did not really come up, and many other things. And that was, if we had infinite time, we'd have liked to talk about all of those things. But that was a calculated decision because these are two candidates who are both liberal Democrats and who both have expressed their pretty unwavering support for a lot of those types of policies. And so instead, we tried to focus on issues where they might find genuine differences. And I think we did. I think we found differences on Israel and campus protests. I think we found differences on surveillance of American citizens. I think we found differences on healthcare, where that was something, Mayor Bala has called for Medicare for all. I asked the Congressman Menendez whether he would support that same bill, and he said he'd be open to it, but he's looking at other healthcare options too. So that's sort of a classic Democratic primary divide about whether you're on board with the specific Medicare for all bill or not. So I think definitely, yeah, there are. As many have said before, this will be a race that is ultimately decided more on non-policy issues than policy issues. But at the same time, for those people who do really care about policy issues, and there were some policy differences we didn't even get to, like transit and transit policies in the 8th district. That is something that the candidates, we were not able to get to, but the candidates have taken different stances on that.
Yeah.
So
David,
people who have strong interests in certain issues will absolutely be able to look at the candidates and see some significant differences.
Yeah, David, as we were going through the debate, and again, as we prepared for the debate, we were kind of ready for it to be a little bit of a slugfest between the candidates and attacks on each other as opposed to getting to the substance. So was there any issue or were there any topics or content on where they stand on the key issues that affect the district that you were struck by or that really stood out to you?
I think what stands out is that Rob Menendez is a liberal Democrat, and I think Ravi Bala might be to his left, a little bit more progressive on some of these issues. What I don't know is how many votes that's going to mean for him in this primary. He's still got a part of progressive Hudson County, part of his own city of Bayonne. He's got a lot of support there. They'll turn out, and you've got downtown Jersey City, which is I think leans heavily progressive. So I think those issues are came out. That personality came out in the debate. The other one, I don't know. You never know what's going to resonate and what's not. But I'm old enough to remember Senator Menendez's early campaigns, and he was and continues to be a hardliner on U.S.-Cuba relations. He extraordinarily conservative. Some say that got him in trouble with the White House. 2 separate Democratic presidents whose Justice Departments have indicted him. Senator Menendez thinks that might have played a role in this. What you saw tonight was his son, now a third generation Cuban American, a little bit more willing to say we need to move on from some of these policies. He's not the hardliner that his father is, but he is not. He is still to the center of Ravi Bala. So I think that could affect how some of the older Cuban American residents in Union City in West New York feel about this race. That's still their issue, and in that case, it's probably to an advantage to be Robert Menendez's son.
Right. And yet, another thing that struck me during this debate, and for some viewers who haven't been introduced to the congressman, if you're not in his district, you aren't following him, people know the Senator Bob Menendez, but very different styles of delivery. And again, Joey, you cover both of them on the Hill. So can you just talk a little bit about, how he presented himself? Did he seem... How he presented himself, and there was kind of an energy and an energy to him that maybe his father doesn't have.
I don't know necessarily about the comparison, but I'll definitely say that was, I think, the most energized debate performance I've ever seen. I think it was the first virtual debate I've ever seen where a candidate chose to be standing. And I think maybe based on the performance, other candidates will also think about doing that. I mean, and that's, I think, something that, I mean, that's been a big part of Congressman Menendez's argument in general is, leave aside all of the drama, leave aside all the headlines. Look at what I'm doing for the district. I've got 2 young kids. I'm coming back to the district every weekend and getting all this money, and then going back to Washington and working my ass off and doing everything I possibly can there. And I'm here down on the Washington side of things. And I can kind of vouch for him being a very active, out there. He's a freshman congressman in the minority, so his power is basically as limited as it can possibly be. But that's a key part of his argument, and I think that even just in his physicality, you saw that part of the argument in the debate.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about this and also looking ahead to Senator Bob Menendez's trial, which is coming up in the next couple of days. Stay with us.
Summers in New Jersey were made to wow you. From sun and wows, to fun and wows, and every wow in between. So come see what your wow's gonna be. New Jersey. It's one wow after another, after another, after another. You get it. Find your wow at visitnj.org. New Jersey. Little state, lot of wow.
Thanks for staying with New Jersey Politics. My guests today are David Wildstein and Joey Fox of the New Jersey Globe. Now, we've been talking about the recent debate in New Jersey's 8th Congressional District. That seat is held by Congressman Rob Menendez. He's being challenged by Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bala. But the congressman's father, U.S. Senator Bob Menendez's federal trial for corruption trial is set to start on May 13th. So let's just talk a little bit about that. David, let's go to you first. This is something that has been overshadowing, consuming the senator's life, overshadowing his son's congressional campaign. And because of this, we have a race, in the 3rd Congressional District, Andy Kim, poised to become the next U.S. Senator, depending on what happens with this trial. So can you just talk a little bit about all of the stakes we have at play here and what a unique time this is in New Jersey history?
Yeah, I mean, Bob Menendez's indictment has had a permanent seismic effect on politics in New Jersey. I've heard it said that if you sum up New Jersey politics right now, it's they need Menendez, needed a new Mercedes, and now the lines are gone. Everything is different, and all of these changes came from Bob Menendez's alleged criminal activities and his indictment and his falling approval ratings. And anecdotally, I heard this from a few people that were at the late Congressman Donald Payne's funeral. Bob Menendez, Senator Menendez, came in. He walked in alone. He sat in the 3rd row at the Basilica in Newark, very quietly, spoke a little bit to the person next to him, but really spoke to very few people. And that tells me something, because I've known him for 35 years, and I was expecting Senator Menendez to walk down the aisle of that cathedral with his usual swagger and go right to the front row and sit with Phil and Tammy Murphy and Cory Booker and Hakeem Jeffries and say, I am the senior senator from the state of New Jersey, and this is where the senator sits. That is totally unlike him. That's just not his personality. He has clearly mellowed under the pressure of this indictment and this pending trial. And it's just incredible how much of an effect he's had on the future of politics in New Jersey.
Yeah. And Joey, he has said, listen, I'm not running in the Democratic primary, but when I'm exonerated, I will perhaps entertain the possibility of running as an independent Democrat in the general election. Do you feel like, is that energy level still there? Do you even see him a lot when he's in Washington, D.C.? Is he, what are your thoughts and your perceptions?
I mean, yeah. So he made that threat, and he said, but he couched it in a pretty careful way, where it's sort of once the court clears my name,
Right.
and in order for that to happen, the court has to clear his name. I think what we've seen with this, I'm not going to try to prognosticate what's going to happen in this trial, because I think that that's ultimately a fool's errand. But it does seem from the weight of this indictment and from the way that people are talking about it, the idea that he would come out of this with sort of a completely cleared name and everybody saying, "Oh boy, Senator, we were so wrong about you. Let's welcome you back to the fold." That's not really how it's going to go. I don't think. I don't really see a future where that's possible. By the time that this trial is over, Andy Kim will have likely already won the Democratic nomination for Senate. People will kind of already be viewing him as on the path to being a senator-elect, although he'll obviously still have to beat a Republican to get there. And you're going to see the Senator Menendez's campaign finance reports reflect a massive flow of money out towards his legal defense, and almost no money flowing in, because donors have basically stopped giving to him. So
Yeah.
This is a situation where, yes, it's someone who has held office in New Jersey for 30 years, someone who has held immense power, someone who has commanded immense loyalty from a lot of people. But most of those factors are gone now. You don't really have that power. You don't have much of that money. You don't have that influence. And I think that David's point about what he saw at the Basilica in Newark is sort of, that is a reflection of that. This is someone who, regardless of how this trial goes, they've been brought down about 1,000 pegs. And I'm not sure that he can really build that back up.
Yeah, and the timing, David, of this, I mean, it is really the final few weeks of the primary. It's going to be dominated by this trial, and it is going to be getting national headlines.
It will, and this is a national story. This is a powerful United States senator on trial for taking bribes, for conspiracy, for illegally representing a foreign government. I mean, this is some bad stuff that he's accused of. But the important thing to remember in these trials, and I agree with Joey. I mean, nobody should guess how these are going to go. But a jury is still an election. It's an election in which 12 people vote, and Bob Menendez only needs one. He only needs 8% of the vote in order to at least, not necessarily get an acquittal, but to get a hung jury and have this go on. So it's impossible to know what's going to happen. Not as much just his race, his son's race, and I think the other important thing to look at is he's going to be on trial in New York City, while a very slim Democratic majority in the United States Senate is in Washington trying to pass bills where you've got Joe Manchin, Kirsten Sinema not necessarily on board. This is his indictment, and his missed votes for probably 2 months or so is going to affect how the United States Senate can vote, how they can govern in an election year in which they are struggling to be able to keep their majority in the Senate.
So just final thoughts about how this cloud of corruption is just really hanging over, and how do you all think that ultimately this will resonate with the voters as we come up to the primary election and then looking ahead into November? David, I'll go to you first, and then Joey for final thoughts.
Yeah, New Jersey is resilient when it comes to allegations against politicians, and New Jersey is also a forgiving state, and things are very temporary. So the answer is, Laura, I don't know. I really don't know.
Yep, and that's New Jersey. Joey, I will give you the last thoughts here. I'll give you 30 seconds for your final thoughts.
I mean, New Jersey does not have the most amazing reputation, I think, politically outside of its borders and also within its borders. So I think when you saw the Bob Menendez indictment come down, I definitely saw a lot of reactions where I was like, New Jersey. And I think a lot of voters are really wanting to move past that. I think that that's a big part of the reason why Andy Kim's Senate campaign, where he was saying, let's do a different style of politics, worked so well. I think it's part of the reason why Ravi Bala might be the next congressman from New Jersey's 8th, depending on how that race goes, because he's saying, let's move past this. Let's get a different vision for New Jersey out there. Yeah. And, Kim is likely to be the next senator. We'll see what happens in these other races. But I think that that is the ultimate consequence of this, is a lot of voters are saying, sick of this. Let's try something else.
Yeah. Joey, David, thank you both so much for your time. It was good seeing you both.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks.
And that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching New Jersey Politics. I'm Laura Jones. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.
New Jersey, we've got more summer wows under the sun than anyone. So come see what your wow's gonna be in the little state of New Jersey, where it's one wow after another, after another, after another. You get it. Find your wow at visitnj.org. New Jersey, little state, lotta.